Welcome to my channel. Today is best top 3 coins. Please don't skip this video. So let's get it started. The United States of America 5-cent coin of 1977, also called the Jefferson nickel, is part of the long-running nickel series that began in 1938. This series features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on its obverse side, and Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home, on its reverse. The 1977 edition continued the post-World War II design tradition and was minted at multiple mints across the country. Its production was large, reflecting its role as one of the most widely circulated coins of the United States during the 1970s. On the obverse side, the coin depicts a left-facing bust of Thomas Jefferson. The design was created by sculptor Felix Schlag, who had originally won the design competition for the Jefferson nickel in 1938. Schlag's design underwent some modifications, but by 1977 it had become one of the most familiar coin portraits to the American public. Around Jefferson's portrait, the inscriptions include the national motto, "In God We Trust," on the left, the word "Liberty," followed by the year 1977 on the right side, and Jefferson's profile dominates the center. The design conveys a sense of dignity and continuity, honoring Jefferson as both a statesman and author of the Declaration of Independence. On the reverse side, the coin features Jefferson's famous estate, Monticello, an architectural masterpiece he personally designed. The structure appears with its neoclassical dome and pillars, carefully centered in the design. Above Monticello, the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, is inscribed, symbolizing the unity of the American states. Below the building, the word Monticello is written, followed by the denomination 5 cents, and then the issuing country, United States of America. This reverse side remained unchanged for decades and became one of the most recognized reverse designs in American coinage history. The composition of the 1977 nickel is the standard used for Jefferson nickels since 1946. Following the end of the wartime silver alloy experiment, each coin is made of a cupro-nickel blend consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to create a silvery appearance. The coin weighs 5 grams, has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and features a plain smooth edge with no reading. Its durability made it ideal for circulation, as nickel was more resistant to wear and corrosion than other coinage metals. This sturdy composition ensured that coins like the 1977 nickel remained in circulation for many decades. In terms of minting locations, the 1977 nickel was struck at 3 major mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia-produced coins carried no mint mark in this period, while Denver nickels bore the letter D to the right of Monticello on the reverse. San Francisco produced proof coins with the mint mark S, made with polished dies and specially prepared planchets to create mirror-like surfaces. Collectors highly value the proof versions because of their sharp detail and finish. The regular circulation strikes, especially from Philadelphia and Denver, were produced in the hundreds of millions, making them very common in circulation. The mintage figures for 1977 reflect the enormous demand for small change in the United States economy during that decade. Philadelphia struck over 585 million nickels, Denver produced more than 297 million, while San Francisco added around 3.25 million proof nickels for collectors. With such high mintages, most 1977 nickels remain common today, and they are frequently found in pocket change, though high-grade uncirculated examples or proofs are more sought after by numismatists. From a historical perspective, the 1977 Jefferson nickel represents the United States during the later years of the Cold War and a period of economic changes, including inflation and adjustments to the currency system. The coin itself did not undergo any design changes or experimental compositions during this year, which gives it continuity in the Jefferson nickel series. However, its steady presence in everyday life reinforced the coin as a trusted piece of American money, circulating in vending machines, transit systems, and daily transactions across the nation and the world of numismatics. Collectors often study 1977 nickels for die varieties, errors, and condition. Common error types that can occasionally be found include off-center strikes, double dies, or planchet flaws. While the majority of 1977 nickels hold only face value in circulated condition, coins that are graded in pristine condition by professional grading services, especially at MS66 or MS67 levels, can command a premium. Proof coins, when well preserved, also carry collector interest due to their mirror-like appeal. The design longevity of the Jefferson nickel was notable. It remained unchanged until 2004, when a series of commemorative reverses were introduced to mark the bicentennials of the Lewis and Clark expedition and the Louisiana Purchase. For the 1977 coin, however, the classic Schlag design stood untouched, a reminder of America's respect for Jefferson and the stability of its coinage traditions. Thus, the 1977 nickel connects both to the legacy of the past and to the long run of mid-20th century American coins and modern collecting. The 1977 nickel is not considered rare, but it serves as an important part of complete Jefferson nickel collections. Hobbyists who assemble date and mint mark sets of nickels include the 1977 issues from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Many collectors also seek full step designations for Monticello on the reverse, which refers to the steps of the building being fully visible and sharply struck. These full-step nickels are scarcer and more valuable, as many dies from the era produced weakly struck steps. The symbolism of the coin is significant. Jefferson's portrait emphasizes America's founding ideals, and Monticello reflects his contributions as an architect and thinker. Together, they project the values of liberty, unity, and democratic governance. By 1977, the Jefferson nickel had become not just a coin but also a miniature canvas celebrating American heritage, widely recognized even by people outside the United States. Finally, the legacy of the 1977 5-cent coin is that of continuity and commonality. It was a coin of the people, circulating in vast numbers, yet carrying symbols of national pride. It remains a reminder of an era when the nickel held greater purchasing power than it does today, capable of buying small goods or contributing to larger purchases for collectors and historians. It encapsulates the story of America's coinage in the late 20th century. Next, the United States 5-cent coin of 1960, commonly known as the Jefferson nickel, belongs to the long-running series first issued in 1938. Designed by sculptor Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel honored Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and principal author of the Declaration of Independence. By 1960, Schlag's design had been in use for over 20 years, becoming one of the most familiar pieces of circulating U.S. coinage. The 1960 nickel was minted during a period of American economic strength when coins were vital in everyday commerce and circulation levels were enormous. On the obverse, front side, the coin features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson. Schlag originally intended a more classical design, but after modifications required by the mint, the bust portrait became the permanent choice. Jefferson's face is rendered in a dignified style, emphasizing his forehead, nose, and high cheekbones, with his hair tied back in a simple queue. Around the portrait appear the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," on the left, and the word "Liberty," followed by a star and the year 1960 on the right. The simplicity of the portrait conveys both statesmanship and continuity. On the reverse, backside, the design showcases Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate. The neoclassical building, with its columned portico and central dome, is carefully depicted in a flattened yet detailed style. Schlag's rendering emphasizes architectural balance rather than depth. Above Monticello, the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one, appears. Beneath the image of Monticello, the word Monticello is inscribed, followed by the denomination 5 cents, and then United States of America. This reverse side remained unchanged for decades and became deeply associated with the Jefferson nickel. The composition of the 1960 nickel was the standard peacetime alloy used after the end of World War II. Each coin consisted of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to create a homogeneous metal. The coin weighed 5 grams, had a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and featured a plain, smooth edge. This durable metallic composition gave the coin its silvery color and allowed it to withstand long circulation without excessive wear, making nickels from the 1960s relatively common even today. The minting locations for 1960 were primarily the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. The Philadelphia Mint's coins carried no mint mark, as was traditional at the time, while the Denver Mint issues bore a D mint mark, placed to the right of Monticello on the reverse. San Francisco did not strike circulating nickels in 1960, as its coinage role was shifting primarily toward proof coinage, but even those proof coins were being produced by Philadelphia in this year. Thus, collectors of 1960 nickels focus mainly on the Philadelphia and Denver circulation strikes. The mintage figures for 1960 were very high, reflecting the nation's growing economy and the massive demand for coinage. Philadelphia struck approximately 55.4 million nickels, while Denver struck an even larger number exceeding 192.5 million nickels. Combined, the total production was nearly 250 million coins. This makes 1960 nickels extremely common in circulated grades today, though well-preserved uncirculated examples are less frequently found. From a numismatic perspective, the 1960 nickel does not generally rank among rare or key-date coins in the Jefferson series. However, certain varieties and errors are of interest to collectors. For example, double die obverse or reverses, off-center strikes and die cracks can attract attention. In addition, some 1960 nickels exhibit particularly strong strikes, especially of the steps of Monticello. Collectors who specialize in full steps, nickels those in which all 6 steps of Monticello are sharply defined find well-struck 1960 examples to be somewhat challenging since strike weakness was common. The historical context of 1960 is worth noting. The United States was experiencing a period of post-war prosperity, technological innovation, and the beginning of a new political era with the election of President John F. Kennedy in November 1960. Coins like the nickel were heavily used in vending machines, telephone booths, laundromats, and transportation systems. A nickel in 1960 held considerably more purchasing power than today, enough to buy a candy bar, a bottle of soda, or several minutes of telephone time. The Jefferson nickel, therefore, was a central coin in everyday American life, and in terms of design longevity, by 1960 the Jefferson nickel had already become iconic. It was one of the few U.S. coin designs that had remained unchanged since its introduction. Many other denominations had undergone design modifications in the early 20th century, but the Jefferson nickel stayed consistent. This gave the 1960 nickel both familiarity and stability, qualities appreciated by the American public. It would not be until 2004 that the reverse design was altered for the first time, and 2006 that a new obverse portrait appeared. The condition and grading of 1960 nickels is a major factor in determining value. Circulated examples are abundant and worth face value. Uncirculated coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services are scarcer and can command higher prices. Coins with the full steps designation are much more desirable, as they show the minting process achieved full clarity in Monticello's architectural detail. These can be rare in higher grades and are often sought by specialists building Jefferson nickel sets. The proof coins of 1960 are another area of collector interest. Proof nickels were struck at the Philadelphia Mint using specially polished dies and planchets, producing coins with mirror-like surfaces and sharp detail. Around 1.7 million proof sets were issued in 1960, each containing a Jefferson nickel. Today these proof coins remain popular with collectors, especially in high grades free of haze or toning. Cameo and deep cameo proofs, which show strong contrast between frosted devices and mirrored fields, are particularly prized. In symbolic terms, the 1960 nickel represents the endurance of American ideals. Jefferson's profile embodies liberty, intellect, and democratic governance, while Monticello reflects both his architectural genius and his role as a man of the Enlightenment. The Latin motto, E pluribus unum, emphasizes unity amid diversity, a theme particularly resonant in the Cold War era, when America was projecting its national identity on the global stage. For modern collectors, the 1960 nickel is an accessible entry point into Jefferson nickel collecting. It is not prohibitively expensive, even in higher grades, and it fits easily into date and mint mark sets. The year 1960 also has special interest because of its transitional place in American history, at the cusp of the 1960s, a decade of cultural, political, and social transformation. As such, it serves not only as a coin but also as a small artifact of its time. In terms of value, most circulated 1960 nickels are worth only 5 cents. Uncirculated examples in the range of MS-65 may bring a few dollars, and full steps nickels can be worth significantly more, sometimes dozens or even hundreds of dollars depending on grade and rarity. Proof nickels from 1960 are widely collected and generally inexpensive, though high-grade cameo examples are more valuable. Finally, the legacy of the 1965 cents coin is one of stability, continuity, and everyday utility. It circulated widely, served millions of Americans in daily life. Next, the United States 5 cents coin of 1964, known universally as the Jefferson nickel, belongs to the long series of nickels first struck in 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel replaced the Buffalo nickel and carried forward a new vision of American coinage, one that emphasized the nation's founding fathers. By 1964, the design had already been in circulation for over 25 years and was extremely familiar to the American people. The coin became a symbol of stability at a time when the nation was undergoing enormous change in culture, economy, and politics. On the obverse, front side, the 1964 nickel features a left-facing bust of Thomas Jefferson. The portrait shows Jefferson's strong profile, with carefully detailed facial features and his hair tied in a simple queue, consistent with late 18th century fashion. The inscriptions include, "In God We Trust," to the left, while the word "Liberty" and the date 1964 are placed to the right, separated by a small 5-pointed star. This arrangement balances the composition, while Jefferson's image dominates the center, symbolizing his importance as an architect of liberty. The reverse, backside, depicts Monticello Jefferson's Virginia estate. This design emphasizes neoclassical balance with its columned portico and domed roof. Above Monticello appears the motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, a message of national unity. Beneath the structure are the inscriptions Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. The reverse of the Jefferson nickel remained unchanged from its introduction in 1938 until 2003, making the 1964 version part of a long and continuous tradition. The composition of the 1964 nickel was the standard alloy used in peacetime coinage since 1946, 75% copper and 25% nickel blended into a homogeneous alloy. Each coin weighs 5 grams, has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and carries a plain edge with no reading. This copper-nickel blend was chosen for its durability, silver-like color, and resistance to corrosion, making the nickel one of the hardest-wearing circulating coins of the United States. The minting locations for the 1964 nickel were the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Philadelphia nickels carried no mint mark, while Denver nickels bore a D mint mark to the right of Monticello on the reverse. Unlike later decades, the San Francisco Mint was not striking circulating nickels in 1964. Importantly, there were no proof nickels produced in 1964, because the U.S. Mint suspended proof sets due to the rising demand for circulating coinage during the early 1960s coin shortage. The mintage figures for 1964 nickels were extraordinarily high. Philadelphia struck more than 1 billion nickels, while Denver produced an additional 1.7 billion nickels. The total mintage exceeded 2.8 billion coins, making the 1964 Jefferson nickel the single most heavily produced date of the entire Jefferson series at that time. This massive production was directly tied to the coin shortage of the 1960s, when the demand for coins in commerce skyrocketed due to economic expansion and vending machine usage. Because of the massive production numbers, the 1964 nickel is one of the most common Jefferson nickels ever minted. Even today, billions of these coins remain in circulation or in storage, meaning they are easy to find. However, collectors are particularly interested in well-preserved uncirculated examples, especially those showing sharp details on Monticello's steps, known as full steps nickels. These are significantly scarcer, since many 1964 nickels were weakly struck due to worn dies and rapid production. The historical context of 1964 adds depth to the coin's significance. America was in the midst of profound change. The civil rights movement was reshaping society, the Cold War was in full effect, and the Vietnam War was escalating. President Lyndon B. Johnson had assumed office after the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963 and was beginning to push forward his Great Society programs. During this time, everyday coins like the nickel played an essential role in commerce, vending machines, transportation, and telephone services, making them a constant companion in American life. The design longevity of the Jefferson nickel ensured that the 1964 coin was instantly recognizable to the public. By this point, Schlag's design had been in use for over a quarter-century without major modifications. This gave the coin a sense of continuity across generations. While the penny, dime, quarter, and half-dollar underwent design changes in the 20th century, the nickel remained visually stable, tying the coin back to both the 1930s and the ideals of the Founding Fathers. From a numismatic standpoint, 1964 nickels are abundant in circulated condition and typically worth only face value. However, coins in high mint state grades, particularly MS-65 or MS-66, command a premium, especially with the full steps designation. Full steps nickels require that at least 5 or 6 steps of Monticello be visible and well-defined without breaks. Due to weak striking, full steps 1964 nickels are much scarcer and more valuable, with some commanding hundreds of dollars at auction. The absence of proof coins in 1964 also makes this year unique. For the first time in more than a decade, proof sets were not produced due to the coin shortage. Instead, the Mint offered special mint sets, SMS, beginning in 1965, but these were not available in 1964. Thus, collectors cannot obtain a 1964 proof nickel, a fact that makes mint state examples even more important for specialized Jefferson nickel collections. The era varieties of 1964 nickels are another point of interest. With such enormous mintages, production errors were inevitable. Collectors have identified off-center strikes, die cracks, and double dies among 1964 nickels. These error coins can be quite valuable depending on their rarity and eye appeal. For instance, a strongly doubled die obverse showing doubling in the inscriptions can be worth far more than a normal nickel. The symbolism of the 1964 nickel remains powerful. Jefferson's image connects the nation to its revolutionary past and its founding ideals, while Monticello represents intellectual achievement, architecture, and Jefferson's role as a statesman and thinker. The national motto, E pluribus unum, reinforces unity, which was a vital message during the turbulent 1960s. This symbolic weight gave even a common nickel a deeper cultural and patriotic meaning. The economic role of the 1964 nickel was significant. A nickel in 1964 carried more purchasing power than it does today. For example, 5 cents could purchase a candy bar, a bus ride, or several minutes of payphone use. This gave the coin considerable importance in daily transactions, especially among working-class Americans and children, who often saved or spent nickels as part of everyday life. From a collecting perspective, the 1964 nickel is not rare, but it is essential for any complete Jefferson nickel date and mintmark set. Collectors typically acquire both the Philadelphia and Denver issues. Seeking high-quality examples, specialists may search for full steps nickels, as well as error coins, to add depth to their collections. Because the coin is so common, it is also a good starting point for beginner collectors. The legacy of the 1964 Jefferson nickel lies in its sheer scale of production and its role in everyday American life. Billions were struck, billions circulated, and billions remain today. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.